Yeah, very good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for agreeing to be on the show.
Excellent. Look forward to it.
Yeah. How's things going in your life? What's news?
Yeah, all good. A lot of things happening. Quite busy with a lot of new and old initiatives. A lot of growth at the moment, obviously. So yeah, all good.
Yeah. So I've got a lot of questions for you because season 5 of the podcast that I host is directed at CEOs, and we're trying to find thought leaders that have got interesting angles to share with our CEO viewers and listeners. So if we can just jump straight into it, I've got a couple of questions lined up for you that I think maybe, just to chat in terms of innovation. I think that's something you've really, I don't know, do you ever master innovation? But would you say that you are an innovative person? Can you label yourself
Oh, I hope so. We
that?
try. I think, yeah. I mean, we've obviously been running the company now for 6 years, and yeah, I do believe we've implemented some innovative ideas and products within the logistics space, and have been able to make a bit of a difference in South Africa in that regard.
So speaking about yourself, maybe just start by introducing yourself. So I think a lot of people know you from your Groupon days and
Yeah. Well,
running that in South Africa as well as in the Netherlands, and now you're doing Pargo. So do you want to just introduce yourself maybe and Pargo first?
exactly. Cool. Yeah. So originally from the Netherlands. I'm Dutch. I came to South Africa in 2012, and before that, living, studying, and working in Amsterdam. Um, I was indeed part of Groupon. My background is in e-commerce. I was working in Groupon together with my now co-founder Derek, and we're part of this amazing growth story. I mean, Groupon is a bit of a strange story. They grew very fast, and then they failed very fast as well. We left just in time before the things went downhill. And in 2012, after helping set it up and growing it quite extraordinarily in the Netherlands, was asked together with Derek to come to Cape Town and help set up the business here. Um, and yeah, that's how I arrived here. And initially, that was supposed to be a 1 year stint, a 1 year project. But a few things happened on a personal level. Like every other European that comes here, we all decide to stay because it's such a beautiful city and such a nice country. But from a professional level, we were just amazed by the huge potential of e-commerce and digital growth, but also realized how big the underlying problems in terms of infrastructure and logistics were, and those are obviously very important for e-commerce. So in 2015, we eventually took the jump and quit our day jobs at Groupon and started Pargo.
So So um, I was briefly also involved with the startup, and that was sort of a location based targeting pinpoint system. And in those days, what we had in mind was because a lot of Africa is very transient, and they move here, or there's a flood, and suddenly their house isn't here; it's over there. And how everyone's with a smartphone can order online, and how does Pargo solve? Is that your dream, that Pargo solves this big e-commerce problem across Africa, which is how do I get, if you're living on a place that doesn't have roads, how do I get my e-commerce delivery to you? Is that really the thinking behind Pargo?
No, indeed, spot on. So we were dealing with refund rates up to 30% back then when I was at Groupon. And that was not because of buyer's remorse or because customers didn't want the product. That was purely because the courier companies that we were working with couldn't get the parcel into the hands of the consumer. And my initial thought was that this was a courier problem. So we moved around and changed couriers a few times. But then I started finding out that the problem was much deeper. It's a structural problem in South Africa and in the rest of the continent, that indeed a lot of people live in areas where delivery is not that easy. And I think we've all had that, right? We've all ordered something and we remember that, you know, you order something online, this is supposed to be convenient and new and digital and quick, and then, you know, we're just waiting forever for the parcel to be delivered. Eventually you realize that there was a driver on your doorstep, but you were just at that moment at the shops or at work or somewhere else, and then you try to communicate, and that's just the biggest nightmare as well. So, you know, we started Pargo really to solve those problems, those last mile delivery problems, and we do that through technology. We've built a tech platform, a logistics tech platform, on which we integrate different service providers, different couriers. We offer different delivery services. So if you're a business and you want to send a parcel, by integrating with Pargo, it's a one-stop shop, and you get access to all these different delivery services. And of which the most important one, or the one that has made the biggest impact, is our pickup point network, which is where we've partnered with thousands of little stores, mom and pop stores, but also stores like Clicks, Shell, Spar, TFG, Caltex, and use those stores as parcel pickup points. So you as a consumer can now get that parcel delivered to that store and then collect at your own convenience.
So, I mean, a lot of people bounce a lot of their, startup ideas off of me, and, because I'm really passionate about this space and ideation, but I know how much effort goes into actually executing. And so your challenge is you've got not only this tech that you have to build, and the way I know tech, it takes 10 times longer and costs 50 times more, and it's never quite as usable as you wanted, especially custom dev. And so you've got the tech side, and so obviously then you have to get the e-commerce retailers to use it. You've got the consumers you need to educate, and you've got this big logistics footprint. I mean, it's like an Uber, where yes, Uber had to build the platform, now get the customers to use it, and then find the drivers and train them. I mean, that's quite a beast, hey? Did you realize it was going to be as much hard work when you started?
No, but it's never been a burden or never been bad. So I think the thing is, what we did is we started it off as an idea, and we just wanted to test it. So we started off with integrating literally 14 stores in the Western Cape and one client, and let's see what happens. And the reality is that just when we started in 2015, one thing that was going very wrong, and still is going very wrong, is the post office. And we actually onboarded a client in Media 24 that was historically using the post office, making so many losses, doing a little test with us in 14 stores, and realized, we were just blown away by the success. We never expected so many people to use it from day one. So when we started the company, we were within 3 weeks, that was 3 weeks after starting it, we realized we were onto something. So yes, it is a lot of work, and yes, there's all the challenges you have as an entrepreneur and as a startup founder, but it helps if you're doing something that's making an impact and that is being used. And it doesn't mean that we've had that challenge indeed of not just creating a brand, but also almost defining a new category, which is click and collect and pickup points. But it makes sense to people, and we've seen the uptake being big, and we've seen that now 6 years later, we are not the only people doing it anymore. It's actually become an industry. Big clients all across the country are now using it, either with us or doing it themselves. The likes of Fashini Group, Clicks, One Day Only, Rain, and many more businesses are all using our click and collect model. So I think that obviously helps that people use it, and that you have that growth.
Yeah, well, you're obviously doing something right. So well done on that. So I wanted to chat about innovation, because, everybody wants to be a disruptor, but it's actually pretty difficult to be a disruptor. And you've come along, and you're disrupting. Groupon was very disruptive back in the day. And so you've got these two, brands that you've actually been a part of that are very, very disruptive. So how do you disrupt? How do you come up with these great ideas? Is it just something that you are just an ideator? You see the need, you take the opportunity. So what has led to I don't know, how do you create something that's disruptive?
Yes. Well, look, I think innovation is really improvement of through new ideas, new processes, new methods, new products. It's really trying to do something, trying to solve a problem in a new way. And I think often when we think about innovation and we think about disruption, we think about examples like Elon Musk and Steve Jobs, which are obviously the biggest innovators of our time. But innovation is happening all the time and all around us, right? And the examples you use, Groupon, basically in a very simple way, innovating the way people could connect with local stores and how they could buy things online, but using very simple, very old-fashioned ways, which is big discounts. And what we're doing at Pargo is, innovating a delivery service, ensuring that we recognize the real problem and trying to solve that. And in our case, in a relatively simple way, right? By using existing stores. And I think one of the nice things about the greatest innovation is whereby you can solve the problem and create synergies for everybody involved, which in our case means that the sender, the business that uses us, has the benefit of a better cost. The user has the benefit of more convenience, so better experience. But also the pickup point that we use has that extra foot traffic, and we pay them a little fee. So I think innovation is really about coming up with new ideas. But I also think it's more than that. I also think it's creating a culture. It's a way of thinking, right? So it's not that I'm that big innovator or anything like that, or that Derek and I are the biggest innovators. It's what we did. We saw a problem. We started working on that, and what we've tried to do over the years is create a culture of innovation within Pargo, within the business, and ensure that anybody within the business can innovate and is innovating in terms of what they do on a daily basis.
So how do you create a culture of innovation in the business?
Well, I think it's as I said, first of all, it's really that team effort, being very clear about that it's not one person's job. I often see it more in all the businesses, in bigger companies, big enterprises, where they want to innovate, and what they do is they set up a chief innovation officer and they create an innovation team, and that's it. And then they think innovation is going to happen. It won't, right? It has to be a culture within the business. And the way we're doing it and the way we see that is a very open culture. It is a culture whereby you have, first of all, very clear vision and very clear goals. Everybody needs to understand where we're going to. That innovation that then happens is obviously geared towards this bigger goal that the company is going towards. It's a culture of collaboration between cross-departmental, between people. It's an open communication culture, so talk to each other. And I think a big part of that is also trusting people. So I mean, one of the big things within Pargo is that we've grown quite fast, and we've had to hire a lot of people. A lot of these people being very smart and specialists in their respective fields. Trust them, let go, let them do their thing, let them thrive, and let them flourish. And then lastly is obviously to have clear structures and processes in place with very clear feedback loops to ensure that as you give people freedom and all this openness, that they still understand that they're on the right track and that they're still moving towards that common goal that we all have.
I love it. I've made all these notes. There's so many nuggets there. I think, so I'm a natural ideator. And there's this great test called the Clifton Strength Finder that I did, which actually identified I'm an ideator. But I started to realize that being an ideator in a business can actually also be a problem, because I've seen so many CEOs where their ideation gift is out of control, where they know that they're ideators. Everybody's so amazed that they can come up with ideas, and all they're doing is coming up with ideas and constantly moving the business here, moving the business here, so how do you control your ideation and make sure that it's productive?
Yes, that's a very good point. I mean, it is definitely a feedback that we've received. So to sometimes just keep ideas for ourselves, and let's first execute on the things that we are working on. What we've been doing is it's really about putting the structures and processes in place to ensure that everybody's in line. I mean, it's end of the day, it's all about over communicating. Again, back to what I was saying just now, being very clear about the vision and the mission, being very clear about basically the strategic direction the company is going, and to make clear the borders between where everybody should be working in, right? And I think if that's clear, if we all know our North Star, this is where we're going to, these are the borders. We're not also if it's clear what we're not doing, what are we not touching, but then you create a space and say within that space you can do whatever you want and be innovative. That helps a lot. And then I think the last thing there is obviously super important is very clear goals, not just 3 and 1 year goals, but also per quarter. So by being very clear about this quarter, we're working on this idea and we're going to work at that. And obviously that helps everybody to just focus and avoids that you just keep on shifting in terms of your ideation and your way forward.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. If you're clear on your goals, people can have as many ideas as they want. You keep an ideas board running here, almost like a wish list. You say, that's great, we're going to put on the ideas board. You put it on the board and you make sure that, because I had to learn that in my own business. I was like, okay, guys, let's be a content creation agency. Okay, now we're going to be a thought leadership agency, constantly like shifting where we were going. Meanwhile, the team were just like, okay, whatever, let's just do great work. Let's just carry on. And so, yeah, I've had to learn for myself to just like, okay, that's a great idea. Let's put it there on the board and maybe,
Exactly. And prioritize them, put all that is on the board, prioritize them, and everybody then understand directly which ones are important and have to be worked on.
Exactly. So how do you attract innovative talent, or how do you attract and retain your innovative talent? Do you have anything in place to make sure that you're measuring, that you're getting the right staff on board, right team members?
Well, yeah. So I think first of all, that is almost step one in terms of being innovative is getting the right people on board, right? So in terms of your hires, it's the most important part of creating a team, of building a business. If you have the right people around you, it just makes life much easier. What we found, and on that note, we are super proud of our team, but also almost sometimes just a bit. How should I say that? Just surprised, that we hire people. I'm like that. This person has chosen to work for us. Like that's such a compliment to the business. And I've asked everybody, like, what made you choose for Pargo, and why did you not go for the big corporate, or for something else where maybe you could have made more money, or I don't know, right, bigger name or something like that. And what the one answer I get from everybody is the fact that we are a super mission-driven company. So I think what we found is if you're clear on your mission and your vision, people don't join companies for what they do, but for why they do it. And if your why is very strong and very clear and speaks to people, that's going to attract people that are like-minded. In our case, it's really that we have this purpose behind Pargo, which is creating access. And we have these pickup points in the smallest little towns. An example is actually a great example in innovation in general is last year, just after the lockdown, after we went from like level 5 to level 4, a lot of companies now had to like shift. Even companies that were not into eCommerce and into digital at all, they had to like overnight come up with ways that they could service their clients distant, on a distance. So we did a big project with all the universities across the country, whereby they had to provide study materials to under digitalized students that didn't always have a laptop or proper internet at home, and using our network to do that, and reaching tens of thousands of students across the country. And things like that, obviously, it makes a huge impact. People love working on those kind of projects. And it's also, again, a great example of how, something like that happened overnight. We got these requests, and within a few weeks, the team had kind of come up with a solution to ensure that this whole project, was done well and came to a success. So I think that's it, right? Have a very clear mission, have a very clear vision. And then secondly is that culture that I was speaking about before. Have a very clear culture. In our case, that means we have core values within Pargo that are very much driven around innovation. We really promote and try people to take action. That means, we rather have people to try and fail than not try at all. We don't mind failure. We are very transparent, extreme transparency from top down, also openness towards each other. That means that I have a weekly all hands meeting with the whole team in which we discuss everything, all the financial numbers, everything that went well, that went wrong, is comes out in that meeting on a weekly basis. We look for people that embrace change. If you want to innovate, you need to change, and you can't use people that just want to be in their same spot and the same thing the whole day and not do anything else. And then the last one is prioritize customers and listen to customers. End of the day, innovation comes from customer needs, right? It is you innovate to solve a problem and to fulfill on those customer needs. So obviously, I think every company says that they do this, but it's important to keep that very much on top of everything you're doing.
So what if because this is a question I often ponder, like, what if they hired me one day to be the CEO of ABSA? What would you do to make a company that old and that dry? Sorry, ABSA, nothing personal. What would you do to create innovation or to, let's say you're the CEO of ABSA and you're sitting listening to this podcast now, and you're like, yeah, but I've got this behemoth, this massive company with so many legacy systems and all of our technologies cobbled together with bubblegum and sticky tape and string, and it's legacy issues. And, I once heard a rumor, I don't know if it's true, but a friend of mine is still building a digital bank. And she was asked by one of the big banks to come in and build a digital bank for them, and she found out that there were 3 different separate departments building the digital bank at the same time, and they didn't know about each other, and actually they didn't want it to succeed because if they succeeded they would lose their jobs. So they were like I'm just like, oh my gosh. So I think is it possible for a big corporate to innovate?
I think it's very difficult, and I think it's because the big corporates' goals are completely different than the startups. The startups are there to move fast, to disrupt, and have very little risk, right? You're starting with nothing. And as a big bank or as a big corporate, you are trying to consolidate and trying to avoid risk and trying to ensure that what you have stays together. So it's a very, very different way. And that's why obviously it's not that the corporate has, as you grow and you get bigger, you will have more rules. And I think the big companies that are trying to prove that wrong are the youngest group of companies that have become quite big in Silicon Valley, companies like Google and Facebook and etc. But even those companies are now struggling with corporate structures and things like that. I think to innovate, trying to do it internally with your own staff and to create again things like intrapreneurial projects and things like that, they almost never work. Another big mistake I see is that then they try to do it through buying companies, but then completely take that company and implement it internally, right? And then they take away the autonomy from that company, and all the innovation just goes away. It's a difficult one. I don't have an answer to it, but it's a difficult one. And
I know.
I'm quite interested because I've been reading, and it's quite interesting to see the approach that the Foschini Group has now taken. And what they've done is they are now on a big hiring spree and hiring a lot of people from Superbalist and Takealot and creating a whole separate department. And and I also I hope for them that it's successful. But I think for them to be successful, they'll as the wider company, they'll have to give those guys autonomy, and they'll have to really let those guys do their thing, because as soon as the corporates are going to try to meddle and trying to steer those guys, then you lose the whole strength of what these guys bring. But we'll see. It's very young with them, so we'll see.
When I was privileged to go on a Google for Entrepreneurs 2-week immersion course in Silicon Valley. And what struck me there, and I want to also touch on maybe the cultural difference that you've experienced, from Europe to here. But what struck me there was that the investors or corporates, when they buy a small startup, they see the startups as their R&D, and then they'll buy the startup and they'll bring them in. But and I'm not saying all of them, but the thinking there is you must keep the founder and you must give them enough shares to keep them still interested. Whereas I find that in South Africa, there isn't that understanding yet of, that if like our VCs, not all VCs possibly in South Africa, but my experience with VCs is, we're going to give you R1 million and we're going to leave you with, 5% share, and nobody's going to work hard for that, and so the whole concept's going to die, because if the founder loses interest, they're the driver, they're the heart behind the business. So this is the whole thing of, corporates and the VCs and keeping the founder interested. I don't think South Africa really gets yet, but it will get there. It'll get there.
Agreed. And I think it all has to do with a feeling, a fear of letting people just do their thing. There's a huge control. Trust is a very big issue in South Africa in general, in business. People don't it also comes down, people don't outsource that much here. But it's changing. I think through innovation and through a lot of, what's happening now with a lot of startups and a lot of industries disrupting things, things are changing. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think things are changing, and I'll tell you why. I realized the other day when I was speaking to another guest of mine that I used to hear all the time South Africans saying, I'm not going to tell you my idea because you're going to steal it. This used to be a big thing. South Africans would always say, I've got this great idea, but I'm not going to tell you because you're going to steal it, which to me tells me that you have no idea how hard it is to start a business. Because if I do steal your idea and I do it better than you, you weren't going to succeed anyway. But B, it's damn hard to start a business. Like, I'm not just going to go and copy Pargo. You've got how many thousands of retailers that some poor fool had to go and visit and call. It's a lot of work. So I think South Africans are wising up a little bit more about things like that and being a bit open, and that actually that in collaboration, there's more power than in, closed door of, I don't want to work with you. Hopefully.
And I think I don't know if that's not just a South African thing, but I think it's a global thing. But I completely agree in terms that, ideas are worth nothing. And I think, you asked me in one of the first questions about, being innovative in ideation. That is maybe the biggest learning I've had when we started the company. And, in the beginning, 10 years ago, I was also thinking much more that it's all about the great idea. It's not about the great idea. I'm happy to have on another session to talk about 100 great ideas. It's, that it's actually quite simple to come up with 100 great ideas or 1,000 great ideas. It's more about just take one and execute, right? And that's the hard part. And that's really what entrepreneurship and that's all about, obviously.
Yeah. I was thinking of coming up with a website, ideasforfree.com, and you can pitch your idea there, because I've got so many great ideas, but there is no way I'm building that thing. There's no way. And all I ask is, if you do build it, send me 1 or 2 for free, maybe, like $100 as a thank you. Or we should do like this, because the ideators can put all their ideas up there and then, give the execution, the people are actually going to make them come to life. So you touched briefly on COVID and how you guys adapted. Now some of your clients had to adapt. Was there a big knock since COVID, and have you recovered, or how do you find things?
Look, COVID obviously has changed everything for everybody, right? And when we were in lockdown level 5, like any other company, we had to just, first of all, we had to go home. We had to all leave the office and start working from our home like everybody else. And we kind of didn't know what was happening. We held tight and just waited along a little bit to find, to realize that we are actually quite fortunate and that we are in an industry that has been growing a lot because of COVID. So many more people are now buying online, ordering from home. So, we've seen just, kind of an overnight growth of the industry with 4 to 5 times in a few weeks, which is crazy. What it means for us as a business is that, innovation, or because of that change, because of that drastic change in such a short time, that innovation then flourishes. Everybody's looking for innovation. Everybody's looking for solutions, right? So what that meant is that, as I said before, that example of the universities, another example is I literally, the night that the first time that the president announced the lockdown, so he's done 1,000 now, but the first one, when he came onto the television on Sunday evening and said we are going on lockdown, that same evening, that was at 10 o'clock in the evening. That same evening, I got 2 or 3 WhatsApps from potential clients, businesses that I'd been speaking to over time, and we were going to do something, but it was just never, we never got to that point to actually execute on it. And they said, "Hey guys, Lars, can we have a meeting tomorrow morning? We need to act. We need to get moving now." And one of them was actually was Rain, the big telco. And with Rain, we managed to create a click collect service for Rain within a week, which normally would have cost us, I would say, maybe a month or something like that, or at least a couple of weeks. And within a week we got the thing signed, set up, going, and live. And they just had the big need. And in terms of internally, we obviously, as I said, we had to move from working at home to working, from working in the office to working at home. I think the big shift change there is that for me is here to stay. We have now, seen that people can be super productive from home. You don't have to be in the office all the time. We do value the office. We do value to see each other and to be able to come together. But we're never going to go back to a 5 days in the office structure. We're going to go back to a flexi structure whereby you can work from home, you can come to the office. It's up to you. Same with working times. We've noticed that when people are working from home and you have the kids and schools are closed, that all of a sudden some people said, "Listen, I need to be with my kids in the morning, so I'm going to wake up early, and then my husband will take over, and then do work in the afternoon, and other way around." And so people were just making plans, and I think that is people were basically innovating in their personal lives and ensuring that it will just work for them. So all of that is here to stay, and I think all of that is not going to change even when COVID disappears.
I agree. So I just wanted to touch quickly on the whole e-commerce thing, because it's in South Africa, it's difficult for e-commerce businesses to make money. I've got a lot of, we build websites for a living as well. And one of the, we've got a lot of our small e-commerce clients coming along with our e-commerce dream. And I'm like, look, Takealot's, not even making money. So what are your insights there in the e-commerce space? I mean, I know you're in the logistics and the delivery side, but is it the cost of delivery? What is what is your advice to e-commerce clients?
So cost of delivery in South Africa is about between 10 and 15% of the total value of the product. In Europe, it's between 5 and 7. So the cost of delivery here is significantly higher than it is in Europe or in the US or in Southeast Asia. And the reason for that is basically why we started the company. It's because of bad infrastructure, it's because of vast distances, it's because of people not being at home, it's because of all these reasons that drive up cost. What we're seeing as a big trend globally, and what we're trying to set up in South Africa is a much more of an omni-channel delivery approach. So try to offer consumers different options. And Amazon many years ago started doing free delivery, and the whole world has followed on that. And I think slowly people are starting to realize that it's not doable. So more and more companies are now charging for delivery, which I think is a good thing. It makes sense. Delivery isn't free, so people should be charging for it. But what we are all about and what we're telling companies is, it still baffles me. The biggest thing is there's no optionality in terms of delivery. You go to a website, you buy your product, you can choose whichever color, everything you want, and then you come to the delivery page. You have different payment options. You can pay credit card, SnapScan, cash on delivery, whatever you want. And then you come to the delivery, and there's literally just put in your address. That's it. And it says between 2 to 5 days the delivery will happen, or 1 week the delivery will happen. And that's it, right? And I don't understand, like, how can we have innovated in all those other areas but not on the delivery space? So what we're all about is adding optionality, but doing it in a way that if you want faster, speedier delivery, if you want, whatever your option is, you pay a little bit for it. So the big advantage we have with the pickup point deliveries is that we can consolidate. So the price for pickup point deliveries is significantly lower than it is for home delivery. So if you as a company offer pickup point delivery, then your price is a bit lower. The consumer chooses, right? Because that's what I often hear. But consumers don't want that. Okay, but that's not the only option. Right? Just give them the options and let them choose, and put prices next to it, and then they can say, somebody that wants a faster delivery the same day pays a little bit more. Somebody that doesn't care, that's happy to wait a few days, pays a little bit less. Somebody who wants to collect from a store pays even less. And in the future, we want to add more and more and more options to that. So Yeah, that I think is really a big thing that's happening. And by doing that, you can decrease your costs. You can start making your delivery more affordable. And especially if you're in retail, if you already have stores, there what we're saying is sell online, collect in store. Let people browse online, let them put together the basket, but give them the option to still come to your store. And that's happening all over the world. It's happening in South Africa. And then all of a sudden it becomes a opportunity to make sales, because if they come into your store, they probably will buy something else. You can upsell to them. And now all of a sudden your expensive e-commerce delivery has become an opportunity for an upsell and becomes super profitable. So I think it's about being creative and thinking about these kind of ways of making that experience better, and also the cost lower.
I love that. You're absolutely right. Why are there no options? Now that you said, it's like lunacy. And I think people start to say, oh no, this is how customers shop, or this is what they all wanted, and to put people in the same box. Like, I'm the kind of person I want it delivered to where I am, but my husband's the kind of person, he'll drive like 15, 20 kilometers to go fetch something to save 50 rand. So to understand that, let's give these people options. And somebody is very frugal, rather wants to save money, they're going to choose their own options, and you're not forcing everybody. I love that. I think that's so clever. So do you have any mentors, just like speaking personally, like what has helped you to grow interpersonally? Or do you read a lot of books, or are you part of any networking groups, or what's helped you to?
All of the above, but well, first, in terms of networking groups, Derek and I were admitted to a group called Endeavor. It's a global entrepreneurship network, which has been very helpful. Their main pillars of help is access to capital, access to markets, and access to talent. Three things that are, as a scaling business, super important. So they've been very helpful. I was very fortunate to be invited by Jack Ma and Alibaba in 2017 to take part of the Alibaba eFounders Initiative, which was a 2-week training course whereby we were flown to their main head office in Hangzhou, China. And yeah, that was incredible. We were basically being taught about scaling a business by Jack Ma himself and his complete C level of Alibaba and all the companies they've invested in, CEOs and the highest people there. That was very, very insightful. And then on a more let's say day-to-day, week-to-week kind of basis, I do have advisors. I do work with mentors, but what for me really has been the biggest learning, by far the biggest learning, is actually my team. It's just like sitting in a boardroom with the leadership team, but also sitting with the specialist teams. I'm in a weekly product meeting. I'm in a weekly marketing meeting. Engaging with sales, engaging with the engineering team, and these guys obviously understand everything they're doing much higher level than I do. So to learn from them, and to with things that I'm also obviously thinking about on a day-to-day, and getting insight on the best ways of doing that has just been the biggest and best learning curve that I've ever had. So I think that's been my biggest kind of source of learning and of knowledge.
I like that. I think too quickly CEOs can lose touch with their teams and their experts and the pains that they're experiencing. And if you delegate and maybe that's when you start becoming bigger, and that becomes like a necessity, and very soon you have actually no idea what's going on at the coalface. And so I love that you're still that involved and listening. So what's new for you? Where to from here? What are your next?
Yeah, so in a way, we've only just started. Still quite a young company. 2020 has just been this watershed moment. And in a way, I often think we were maybe a little bit early to the party when we started in 2015. But we're here now, and this is when it's really starting. So we tend to keep on growing as fast as we can. Have very high ambitions in terms of that growth. And the way we want to grow is by continuously expanding that network of pickup points. Ensure that we are have a pickup point within 10 minutes, within 5 minutes of every South African first, and then of every African after that. We intend to keep on developing new products, new products, new services, and keep innovating in that regard. And we want to onboard and broaden our client base, get more and more businesses to work with us. And yeah, all of this in our mission to create access for as many people as we can in Africa. So yeah, I think exciting space to be in, and lots of work still to do. But as I said before, it's always great when you see the results coming in of all the hard work, and that growth continuously keeps going.
Well, congratulations on building such an innovative company and also solving such a basic need for South Africans and Africans. And it's been lovely having you on the show. Thank you so much for your insights, and I wish you all the best for the future. Thank you, Lars.
Thank you. It's good to, thanks for having me.